So I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to who we are as CreativeMornings. But before I do that, I'd really love to encourage you guys to follow us on the digital platforms, all social media channels. We're on there. And obviously follow our hashtag and please share your experience with us this morning. And just to look at who we are in numbers as CreativeMornings, we are a global organization with different communities in different cities, about 148 chapters just like this one across the globe. We're present in 70 countries. Some countries obviously having multiple chapters in them. We've got a chapter in Cape Town as well, just by the way. But otherwise, we welcome over 20,000 people every month to our events globally. And we absolutely just love having people join us every month. This is our local Johannesburg CreativeMornings volunteer team. Volunteer team, please high five, hands up, say hello quickly, so people know that you're in the room. Not everyone is here today. Hello, Jace. Lelo. Not everyone is here with us this morning, but please, when you do bump into our volunteer team and you have a question or you have something to say to us or ask about our community, please reach out to either one and we'll be happy to have a chat. And just a quick high five to our partners. So our chapter thrives on our partners' generosity and then really partnering with us to make and bring CreativeMornings to life. So 1410 today is actually their day because Tongai is from 1410. But a big thank you to 1410 who are our production partner. WeWork obviously opens up this beautiful space for us on a monthly. And we've also got Hyphenate Studios, who is a creative partner to CreativeMornings, Cherry Picked Locations, and Serve Fruit, who provide some branding and obviously the delicious beverages that we have with us this morning. So thank you to all of our partners that help us bring CreativeMornings Johannesburg to life. Yay! And then our global partner is Adobe. So Adobe really provides all the creative tools and resources that we need as a global community to create CreativeMornings. They also give us access to lots of learning opportunities, online seminars, courses, you name it. So please do check in on creativemornings.com to see what Adobe has to offer for our community. They've been a really great partner across the board for us. And getting into this month's theme. Our theme this month is mentor. And it really, stems on building mentorship, relationships, how to find a mentor, how to be a mentor, why it matters, why it's important, and how to grow in those relationships. I think it's a really important theme to unpack. And I think this morning we're going to have a really, really great time speaking to Tongai about it. Tongai is a post-production specialist and an executive founding partner at 1410 Digital Films. I know he's got a lot in pack for us this morning, going through some of the projects that he's done, and obviously how it relates to mentorship and how mentorship has actually impacted his work and why it even is a great thing to look into, right? So I am going to hand over to Tongai, and he's going to steer the boat for us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wow, thank you very much, Ntombi. Thank you everybody for being here today. This I normally sit in an edit suite, so this is not my my comfort zone, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So the question I asked, why is mentorship? Why does mentorship matter? And I'm not really sure why mentorship matters, but I'm just gonna try and. Okay, so we're doing a double thing where I've got my notes here and we have this. So basically, when I started out coming into the film industry, I didn't really have any mentors to kind of like help me or or figure out what it is that I wanted to do, right? So, I figured like the people that kind of got me to believe in myself, firstly was like my mom, who's a very optimistic kind of person. She started up a lot of businesses, and I kind of get that kind of entrepreneurial spirit from her. My dad, who's kind of like a solid, hardworking planner kind of guy. I figured, let me take some of the stuff from him, and kind of use that in my entrepreneurial life as well. And also my friend Norman, who was an actual who also was an aspiring filmmaker, but really believed in film and the power of story. And I kind of like, levitated towards that. So I guess what I'm just trying to say is that in life, we basically meet people that, and we interact with a lot of people. And I think the most important thing is to kind of take the best thing out of them, and kind of put that into your life, right? So I'm going to tell you the story of how 1410 Street kind of began. And like all businesses, it's all a humble beginning, right? So even if you look at like Google, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, he was in his dorm, at university in his room. Google was in a garage. Now, I'm not saying I'm Google or Facebook, but this is where all these things begin, right? And nobody really has anybody to show them what it is that they want to do, because you're starting something, you're creating something from scratch. It's new, right? And this is kind of like how we came about 1410th, right? So 1410th is actually a place in Melville. It's number 1410th Avenue in Melville. And it was basically the first place that I rented out with my friend Norman, who was, like I said, who was a filmmaker. We both went to AFTA together. AFTA in itself was a startup back then when we were there. When we finished and we graduated, we were fortunate to obviously find work. And this first paycheck I got, I was like, no, I'm leaving home, gonna find my own place. And that's when we found 1410th Avenue. And it was a great place to be because Melville, obviously, we know is a place where artists and creatives are. There was an outbuilding there as well that Akina Matoso rented, and he was doing a film called God is African. And again, if you look at that film, God is African, it wasn't really a great film. And I know even if he was sitting here, he would agree. But it was still something he had created, right? So it was the spirit and the time in South Africa back then, in 2003. Kwaito was like really big, and that was also another genre that was just created and just came out of nowhere. And hip hop also was starting to come up, Squatter Camp, those kind of guys. So the spirit around the country at that time and around creativity and around this creative industry was very much one of like, you know what? I'm gonna do it my way, and I'm gonna beat whatever system and whatever things are in place, because this is our thing and we have to do it for ourselves. I was working at Pam Deborah Harris, which was also in Melville, and I was doing the Channel O work. So really working on all their music videos, all the content that was on Channel O, and again, Channel O was also something new because we all knew MTV, we all knew all those other music channels, and here was Africa's first, first music channel, so to speak. So it was that time. It was a really great time to actually come into the film industry. But I was in post-production. I was an editor, and I really never thought of actually starting a business. I just thought, okay, I'm gonna keep working for producers, working for directors, and that's gonna be my life. And then, bam, the G4 Mac. I saw the G4 Mac for the first time in my life, and I was completely blown away. And you must understand, when I was working at Pam Dever Harris, they had a Sony Vega. It was huge, the room. It was half the room, and it was all sorts of gadgets, beta cams, you name it. And it just looked, all I was concentrating on was cutting, and I just didn't even want to know what was making this machine move. Norman was working at Terraplane, as in Norman, my roommate, was working at Terraplane. I went to go visit him, and there was a guy there called Neo, who was a young black editor as well, and he was working on this G4 Mac. And I was like, dude, what is this? And he's like, because it looks like a desktop, right? And he's like, this is what we work on. And I'm like, is it just this? He says, yeah. And he had Final Cut 7 on there, and they had a DV cam, and they were cutting commercials and exporting directly to what you call it, to DV cam, which was going to broadcast. And I was like amazed, right? So I went and I found out, okay, how much are these? And they weren't expensive. Well, they were expensive, but in context to what it costs you to build an edit suite, it wasn't that bad. So I called the Apple people and ordered one and put it in a bedroom, in one of the bedrooms in the house, and started cutting music videos. So all of a sudden, I had this machine at home that was so powerful that could actually start a business, and that's what I actually did. So, because obviously I was working at Deborah Harris and those guys producing music videos, they soon knew about my machine at home, and that's when I started collaborating with young production companies and started to edit their music videos. The first music video that we did was Rude Boy Paul's Mbube, and I remember him coming into the house and watching it in the room, and being really excited about the cut, And I think it was a great time because nobody really cared that it wasn't a post-production facility. So it wasn't Blade, it wasn't Video Lab, it wasn't Refinery. There was a cool thing about, oh, okay, we can do this in someone's bedroom, right? And then from there, it just started to grow. We did Bricks' music video, we did Squatter Camp, and I mean, these guys were signed to like Sony and Ghetto Raf and that kind of thing. And I think also the producers that were producing were also spurred on by new technologies of digital cameras, and that whole digital age just kind of allowed for like a independent filmmaking environment to grow, right? So we were growing, or I had something going on. I had something happening, I didn't know what it was. I hadn't called it 1410th yet, but I had something, right? And I was making a little bit of money, but it was all still moonlighting kind of stuff. My job was obviously still more solid. And I didn't really know, okay, what do I do with this, right? I've got this machine, I'm cutting stuff, but what do I actually do with it? I think the environment that we were in, once again, because it was very much of a startup environment, I was kind of like pushed by these great people. We can move to the next slide. Kagiso Lediga and the Pure Minati crew, they had already done their first season, but then they had also heard about my edit suite in my bedroom, and they were like, dude, why don't you cut the next season of the Pure Minati show? Something in me was like, yes, for sure, I can definitely do it, right? So I still hadn't, maybe the experience that I'd got from working at Deborah Harris and delivering to Channel O, I was like, okay, this is possible, this can be done. And then together with the experience, together with the knowledge that Neo had from Terraplane, them working on the G4 and delivering with Final Cut, I was like, okay, great. So there was a combination of being naive, a combination of thinking, this is possible, that I just put my hand up and said yes to it. Fortunately, I also had a crazy director and a friend as well, John Barker, who basically, very crazy guy and also just believed in everybody, was like, dude, you can do this, but you can't do it from your bedroom because you're gonna have like CEs coming to watch and, channel coming to view, and it's not gonna work there. So you might as well, start to find a place to work out of. And that's when our first office was at 44 Stanley. And because now we had an actual real budget, an actual real production, something, that was solid, I was like, okay, let's start this company, 1410th. And we named it, well, I say we because I don't look at my company as me. I look at it as itself. So me and the company are the we, right? so we named it 1410th Street, actually. And that's when we started on it. But I mean, again, that's the point where I'm supposed to go to somebody who's actually delivered to SABC and ask them to help me out. Already the mindset was, I'm young, I'm black, and I'm going to take over the world. And I guess it's a good thing back then when I think about it, because it was like pushing me to do stuff, but at the same time, I wasn't asking for help. And also there were not any other black post-production companies out there that I thought I could ask. I know it sounds very black-white thing, but it was just the environment. It was just the way it was. It was like, now I'm gonna go and ask someone at Blade if I can do it. They're probably gonna say to me, just bring it here, And then my opportunity is gone. So it's the only way I can explain taking that kind of risk at that time, right? So still no mentor, just jumping into this. I had to obviously get broadcast monitors because you can't deliver without those. Fortunately, I think that's the only time I went to one of these post houses, and I asked them if they had any secondhand monitors, and they were able to sell me their old stuff. And I brought those in and started working right away on the Pure Minati show. I think we delivered close to 40 episodes. It was quite a long show, and it was a very successful show. But again, it was the people around me. It wasn't just me. It was Kagiso Ledika. I mean, he had put so many comedians on as well. Now he's putting a post-production company on. It was just a great environment to be in, and that's what allowed me to kind of like get the company started. After the Pure Minati show, that delivery, I now got the rhythm, and the company was like, okay, we can do this. And then other producers started coming to us to do their productions for them. And I guess it was that time where the SABC and the NFVF were really pushing a lot of money into independent filmmakers. And I was fortunate to then also work with Vincent Molloy on his A Pair of Boots and a Bicycle, which was a feature documentary about Job Maseko, who was a black soldier in World War II. And that was a feature documentary. And that was not just delivery for broadcast, that was also international delivery as well. And then we also worked on Homecoming, which was a mini-series. And again, that was a 3-part mini-series, a really great mini-series with big actors and big stars in it. And we delivered that to SABC. And I guess, the rhythm, the momentum was going. And these were productions that I was doing on this G4 Mac. And I was doing the whole thing, the online, the offline, color grading, everything with this machine. And we were winning awards. The films were traveling. And like I said, it felt like, wow, this can actually work for me. But still, I did not have a mentor. I did not have somebody to tell me what it is I was doing, to tell me, you know, because the company was me and it. So it wasn't really a company. It was my talent, my work, and I was getting paid. And because I'd learned from my mom, who was a entrepreneur, startup kind of person, business needs a business card. So hey, I had a business, basically, right? And I had an office space, so this was a business. But was it really a business? Is the question, right? I didn't have, yeah. So we move on to the next slide. Just, yeah, sorry. I think I've jumbled up my slides, but just move on. Yeah, that one. Okay, great. So like I said, I didn't know what I was yet. I didn't know if I was a business or if I was just an editor with an edit suite. Basically, that's probably what I was, right? And then I figured, you know what, I need an administrative environment here. I need somebody that can actually produce me because this is not sustainable. I can't be cutting, doing invoices, and all the other stuff that goes with it. And that's when I was fortunate to meet up with Nelisa, who's actually in the room. She can put her hand up, and I know she doesn't want to. She basically brought that production knowledge into 1410, and it's something that was very much needed. That's the production side, and then that's the creative side. And when that came together, it was just magic. And I actually also had met Nelisa at Terraplane, so I think we've got a lot to thank Terraplane for. But which you all know, it was a commercials production space. So when she came in, she really brought in that jacked commercial kind of thought process to everything, and it all kind of like just came together. Unfortunately or fortunately for her, by the time she arrived, the SABC was going through its thing. And we all know what that means. It was going through its thing, and a lot of people then kind of couldn't find work at SABC, right? So we were working with quite a few producers then, with Dumsani Pagati, Carlo Matsabane, and quite a few other guys. And all that kind of work just dried up, completely disappeared. And now this company that I had didn't know where to go. And again, it's at this point where you need someone to say to you, no, you're not just an editor that edits narrative. You are a post facility that can actually work with other projects and do other things, right? But that didn't happen. But again, I think Nelisa, being in that industry, somebody called her up and said, hey, can you do some corporate videos for us? And that's when we kind of like went into the whole corporate environment. You can change the slide. Yeah, perfect. How did you know? Great. So growth without a guide is basically what was happening to 1410th, right? I didn't know how to run the business, and I had to figure that out. I also had to figure out along the way through all of that my own workflows, how to make efficient post-production workflows. I had to keep abreast with like software and new equipment and quality control and all of those things. So there was no experienced professional showing me how to, or giving me advice, or a community, or if I had just reached out to someone at Video Lab and just had coffee and spoken about, that delivery that I did last week was difficult. I might have found somebody to kind of like, I might have gained some knowledge there, or found something that could help me with my workflows and the things that I do, right? But at the same time, because I was young, I was black, it was empowering to be like this guy, and to have this thing. And so the hidden costs of no mentorship. We were achieving, but we did not know what exactly we were worth. We did not use conventional tools like marketing and PR to promote ourselves. We kept relying on the next job or our talent to push us forward. We were growing, but not putting foundations in place that would build a solid organization. Real growth needs a plan and a vision. So I think, you know, I was an editor. I was a creative that stumbled upon a business, right? And still hadn't figured out how to run that business. Because when they say you run a business, you're supposed to kind of like be able to step out of it and see it for what it is. And all those examples were there across the different businesses we encountered. Robbie Brosen was not there frying the chicken. He was outside of it. The TWA's Hunt, no, what's his name, Nelisa? John Hunt, yes. John Hunt, he was creative, but he wasn't pitching anymore, you know? And this is where we were in. We were inside the business. So before you start a business, you actually have to know the reason why you're starting a business. And also, a business doesn't not necessarily need to always be about profit, but it can also be about your values, the people that work for you, uplifting them, and figuring out how to kind of like, figuring out your values as to who you are. So Nando's has this 5-point value thing that's family, passion, pride, courage. I still remember all this stuff today. And I mean, it was cheesy back then, but if you think about it, that's the only reason why you get so many people coming to work every day, because they have a purpose. So the idea of finding the purpose of 1410th was now my new thing. Like, what is the purpose of this company? So it was a great time. I mean, we working with Nando's and again, Nando's was also in that same spirit as startup, right? Because they were competing with KFC and McDonald's, and it was a new, when you hear the story, you know, small, humble beginnings of chicken, and now they were like, they've got like restaurants all over the world, and they were just growing, but they also just felt like a really big startup, right? And it was such a perfect place for us to kind of learn about running a business. I think their culture then became our culture, and we were so much part of their family because we were literally shooting their stuff every single day. Whatever happened, a marketing manager would leave, we're there shooting it. You know, Robbie would have a birthday, we're there shooting it. Like everything, like guys frying chicken, we're shooting it. I think one of the things that they did every year was they would throw a party for the company. And this specific year, no one knew what to do for the party. And because we'd been shooting and doing all sorts of stuff, we were around the table, and I was like, yeah, why don't we shoot it? You know, and because it was kind of like a joke. And they're like, huh, what do you mean? And then I had to like really come up with something. And I was like, let's do like a live broadcast. A live broadcast from here in Joburg, and then we stream it across the country to different locations where all the different Nandokas are having a party. And then they cross over live, and we cross over live, and we just have a party on TV. And they said, are you sure? They said, no, that sounds like a great idea. This was the marketing managers. Let's go tell the CEO. so we went and we told the CEO, and he looked at us and he's like, are you sure you can? And it was literally me and Nelisa in this room. And he's like, are you sure you guys can do this? And we're like, yes, we can do this. Wow. He signed off the check. Nelisa did the budget. And we went away and started organizing Nando's 21st birthday celebration. We shot the content for like a month across the country, driving in different restaurants. We made sure the venues across country were up and running, and then we approached Urban Brew to do the actual live broadcast, and it was a success. And it was huge. It was actually a big thing, you know what I mean? This is something that agencies should have been doing. You know what I mean? And it was, and we were doing it as this internal. And again, like I said, it's that spirit that was there. This can do. Nothing is in our way. We can do whatever. No, not do whatever, but this is, things are possible, right? Dream big. And it's at this point that I think we should have taken off. We literally should have taken off and become I don't know, because we didn't know what we were. We could have been a production agency, shooting, cutting, conceptualizing. As a company, that's solid. We have proof, right? We had an actual product to show that we can do this. But what did we do after all of that? We packed up, went home, woke up the next morning, and went back to shooting chicken. People frying the chicken, and it wasn't because I don't know. We just didn't know what we were. We were just moving on vibes, I guess, right? So we figured out we had moved away from being a post facility. We were a post-production company, a production company. We were like an agency, and I hope I'm on the right slide. Yeah. And we were conceptualizing stuff. But our biggest selling point, which is not a selling point, is we were low budget, we were low cost, we were cost effective. We were cost effective, right? And that was our thing. Yeah, we can do it, the biggest thing, and you can afford it. It was great. It made sense because that's what we thought people were coming to us for. But actually, these guys were clever. They were actually coming to us because we were actually good at what we were doing. We actually had great ideas, and we actually were giving them a good product. But it kind of like felt that we needed to tell them we were cost effective. and that's what ended up happening. So I know I'm bouncing a bit, but the stuff that you're seeing here now all didn't just happen at 44 Stanley. This was now, throughout our kind of like our journey. We moved from place to place. I think the place that we stayed for a lot was the TBWA building. So again, that was supposed to be another place where we could have walked upstairs and found a mentor, but we didn't. Fortunately, how we got into the TBWA building was Pumi Mashiko. She basically helped us get like cheaper rent, which made us more cost effective. In the building, so they gave us the space kind of like for free, which is what we thought, but it wasn't really for free. It turned out we were an enterprise development, something. But at the end of the day, yeah, nothing is for free. But at the end of the day, it was great working out of that building. But again, we should have gone up and asked for a mentor. But because now, if you think about it, we're a production company, we're a post-production company, and we're also a conceptualizing company. Who do you go and ask for help? Because if you're going to anybody, you're competing with everybody, right? And that kind of worked for us. So we did a lot of work. The ones you see are the young Standard Bank, young artists. We did work we were shooting actual commercials. we shot actual commercials. Pitching, going for briefs, the whole thing. Like 1410 for a very long time was a commercials production company. But we were an island because we were competing with everyone. I can't stress it enough. We move on. So the hidden costs of no mentorship. We were achieving, but we did not know what exactly we were worth. We did not use conventional tools like marketing and PR to promote ourselves. We kept relying on the next job or our talent to push us forward. We were growing, but not putting foundations in place that would build a solid organization. Real growth needs a plan and a vision. So I think, I was an editor. I was a creative that stumbled upon a business, right? And still hadn't figured out how to run that business. Because when they say you run a business, you're supposed to kind of like be able to step out of it and see it for what it is. And all those examples were there across the different businesses we encountered. Robbie Brosen was not there frying the chicken. He was outside of it. The TWA's Hunt, no, what's his name, Nelisa? John Hunt, yes, John Hunt. He was creative, but he wasn't pitching anymore, you know? And this is where we were in. We were inside the business, so we couldn't really see it and make plans for it, right? Where are we here? So we just kept going on, and I'm going to just show you the kind of stuff that we did. We can move to the next slide. It's fine if they can't hear. Oh, do you want me to put it there? No, it's fine. Just play it. It's fine. You can see the visuals will speak for themselves. It's just music. It's no narrative. I mean, come on. and I'm telling you, that's not even half of the stuff, right? And we shot that. We cut that. Some of that we conceptualized. There was even animation we were doing. We were doing everything, right? We were doing everything, cost effectively, but we were doing everything. And I guess we were becoming an island. So no one was going to give us work. Because it's like, we were competing with everybody, right? So in reality, we were a post-production company and not an agency and not a production company. That's actually the reality of the situation, you know? I was a director in the company, but I was not the best director in the country. So other directors, commercial directors, could kill me in a second. You know what I mean? Our production houses that were doing commercials were not doing commercial production and editing. They were just doing production. So they were good at that. Post-production companies that were working with the good production companies, when we were asking them, hey, let us cut for you, they were going, no, those guys just cut. And they're really good at that. So we started not finding work because we were competing with everybody. Also, I think advertising budgets shrunk. It was, also getting harder to find work. And then the great content creators started to appear. The one-man band who could literally shoot, cut, and they knew what they were. And they could conceptualize and they could do small things for social media. And I think they didn't just threaten us, they threatened everybody, like everybody, And they came in. So we didn't have work. We literally didn't have any work. And I remember we had now moved to Craigo, where we are right now, because we had left TBWA because, again, that was a space where how do you be in TBWA building and then get FCB to come and do? So we're completely doing the wrong things, but just fortunate somehow to get work. We had no mentor to tell us, guys, get out of this building, look for what you need to do, that kind of thing. Anyway, I was saying, yeah, we're here now. This is where we are now. And there was no work, literally dried up. And we were sitting there. Fortunately, we had people working with us, and we had created that family values thing through Nando's. So people kind of like stuck with us, even if we're giving them their salaries like every week kind of thing. It got so bad that we actually started outsourcing our own stuff for freelance work. And I think if it wasn't for that values thing, other guys would have been like, hey, we out of here, peace, but they felt that they owed us something. And they actually went out and freelanced. And so they freelanced, but then we still gave them a salary at the end of the day. I mean, which is pretty admirable, right? And I myself contracted myself out, and I went back to what I knew, which was where we started with narrative. And it was on this TV show, Ubetina Wetu, which I was the lead offline editor on it. And I found myself editing, I think it was called something else, but they're now the Refinery. It was called something else, the guys. And I was working at their offices and under their leadership. And wow, what an experience for me. It was one of the most amazing experiences, because for the first time, where I was all this time, I was afraid to go into other post houses. I was now forced into it and forced into seeing how people actually ran post-production. And it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I was like, wow, we were literally this close to getting the perfect workflow. And we were never gonna see it and believe in it if I had never come here. And we weren't far off, It was just like slight little tweaks. And I was like, this is a business model. This is something that we can do and grow and actually have a solid business out of. And I went back to Nelisa, and I was like, Nelisa, let's start just doing post-production on TV shows. That's all we're gonna do. That's what we used to do, but let's do it. But this time around, it's not just gonna be me trying to do everything. Let's get in freelance offline editors. Let's collaborate with sound engineering companies. Let's get somebody outside subtitling. Let's make this a collaborative thing, but here is where we just concentrate on the core business, the core running of it, and then we work on our strengths, offline, color grading, and post-production coordination and post-production supervision. Let's work on those strengths. And it literally took off. The thing is, it literally took off. And that's what I'm talking about right now. Literally took off. And this has literally been in the space of how many years? Am I like 5 years? Literally, all of these shows is what we're currently and have been working on in the last 5 years. We've pushed ourselves right to the top of the post-production narrative space in the country. Currently, Inimba is doing very well on DSTV. Inkabi just won an award in Lagos. This is, and then we've also got MTV Sugar Mashariki, which we've just finished now, which is like a 8-part series that's with a Kenyan production. It's a Kenyan production, which we're delivering to Paramount, BET. It's amazing, and the model works, and we have amazing people that work with us. We have an amazing core team that works with us, that understands the process, that understands what we need to do and what and how we do our business. And there's just so much more. We've got work for the future, which we never used to have, like projected work is a real thing. You can say, hey, we're going to be doing stuff, you know, because we have this structure, this shell that people can bring things through seamlessly and then move out. And this is the space that we want to grow in. Not and not to say that you know, people don't still call us to shoot stuff. People still do, but what we've learned is to spin it out. So it's not part of this. It's its own thing over there. And again, we collaborate and we bring in producers. You bring in whatever that needs to make it work. So it took a long time to get to this point. This is where we started, actually. And we deviated off it because we didn't have a mentor, because we didn't have somebody to explain to us what it is that we were, what it is our strengths were, you know, what it is that if you have edit suites, what it actually means, and the people that you need to bring on board. We didn't have guidance, or we didn't go to other spaces to see how they were doing things, to figure out what it is our strength was. If I had been doing this from the beginning, I think it would be a whole different space. And when it got tough, I shouldn't have moved away. I should have stayed, looked for other things. And when I say shouldn't, I'm not regretting, not at all. I'm just saying, like, in the context of mentors, you're gonna get to where you wanna get to much faster. You know, if you're in for the ride and you figure, hey, life is, you know, if that's your thing, que sera, sera, you'll eventually get there, then by all means. But if you can find somebody who can guide you, somebody who can help you see where you want to go, please do it. Or if not, go and speak to similar people or similar companies that look like yours and get some sort of experience from there. So today at 1410th, we create a space for young creatives that learn by doing. They ask a lot of questions and they fail without fear. So, like I'm just saying now, the environment that we have at 1410th is a lot of people have come and gone. The mentorship is working in the company. The mentorship is being a part of 1410th. We really believe in the people that work for us. We really are there for them. We don't throw anyone under the bus, no matter how badly they make mistakes, because we've made a lot of mistakes along the way. So the kind of mentorship that we're giving now is from the journey that we've had. The kind of filmmakers that we're creating within our business are filmmakers that we feel are going to serve well in the future going forward. We've moved from taking over the industry. That's not a thing we want to do anymore. We love everybody. We want to work with everybody. We understand it's not an us against them situation. The more we can collaborate, the better. That's actually where it's at now. We don't do any jobs without collaborating, whether it's with VFX, whether it's with audio guys, whether it's with offline editors. There's none of the jobs that we do are an us against them. We try to stay away from the island mentality and be part of the community. This is one of the reasons why I'm here now speaking, is because I want to be part of the creative community. I'll be speaking at Fame Week in September, the 1st of September to the 3rd of September, again, being part of the community, because, you know, it's not a struggle. We're all in this together. Where else am I? So why mentorship matters today? I think I've touched on that because I think everybody needs direction and focus on what it is your core strengths are. But I think in closing, the biggest reason why I think people need mentorship today is because mentorship in a way is knowledge, and knowledge is so accessible right now. And I think the knowledge that's so accessible right now is very curated. So you can go on ChatGTP and ask it to mentor you, but it's coming from somewhere, I don't know what experience it's coming from, but it will give you solid advice, but it's not coming from experience. And the kind of mentorship that I think I got was meeting people like Robbie Brosen, meeting people like John Hunt, meeting people like Vincent Malloy, Tumsani Pagati, just because the humanness of what it is that, of how you carry yourself, of how you, walk into a room, of how you continue to wake up every day and actually believe in what you're doing is also part of mentorship. It's not just a tick this box, tick that box, tick that box. It's something that you feed off different people. That's why I think in the beginning I tried to explain my mom, my dad, my friends. You rub off and you learn from everybody, and you kind of like take the good things that they have and make them a part of what you want to be going forward. The one thing I can conclude and say is that that's how I feel that, I'm not a kind of person that mentors people and sits them down and tells them, hey, this is what you need to do. It kind of happens as you are around me. And that's why I'm saying, like, it's just finding good people and being around them is kind of like the best way to get good mentorship. And yeah, I don't know if I've really touched on the subject properly, but I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much for your time. It was really interesting. I just wanted to know, in terms of mentorship, how do we make it less intimidating? Both the idea of being someone's mentor and also how you find mentors, because I think that's probably one of the biggest roadblocks, is that it's very intimidating.
Are you saying getting mentorship?
Both directions.
Both directions.
Yeah. I think a lot of people say no to being mentors because it's a huge responsibility. So how do you make that less intimidating and then force someone finding a mentor?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's always been the hard part of this topic. To say how am I a good mentor, it's kind of like hard. But I think it's empathy, right? So from a mentor point of view, you've got to kind of like understand and really understand where the person is coming from, understand their limitations, understand that they don't know it, that they're there to learn, and giving of yourself and giving you the knowledge that you have and trying to guide somebody it's actually a really cool thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like your children, your babies, right? And you want to just make sure that they get the best opportunity and you give them the best advice. So you have to first have some sort of empathy towards the people around you. I think for me, in our environment, I mean, a good example is this man over here, Spiwe. He calls me Pops. So he's really made it easy for me to kind of mentor him in a way. But I mean, I remember him first coming into the office and telling me, yeah, I can really add value. I can shoot, I can direct, I can do all of these things. I've got a crew that I'm producing and da-da-da-da. And I said, go away and come back when you know what it is that you are. And he never came back. But I knew exactly what he was when he was talking, is that he was actually more of a producer. And when the opportunity came for him to come and be post-production coordinator at our space, I said, Nelisa, I know the perfect person that's going to do this. And he came on board, and the second he walked into the space, I was literally next to him. I made him feel comfortable. I made sure I showed him everything that was going on. I gave him all the knowledge that I have of what I know in my everyday today running of the business. He was open to learning. And I think that's the other thing, if you are mentee, is that the other way around? You should be open to learning. Be patient with your mentor as well. And that's what he was, very open to learning, enthusiastic, there on time, and all of those things. And I think he's great at what he does now. So it's a two-way thing. Everybody's got to want to do it. He just the other day we had an intern. She just finished film school. She just finished school. And she's going to be going overseas to study film. And she'd been with us for like 3 months with us, and he mentored her using the same methods I could see that I was. And it's the same thing. It's a lot of love. It's a lot of nurturing and caring for the person, because you're right, everybody's scared. You gotta kind of like make it comfortable for the people that you're mentoring, and vice versa. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gazi. I am with Lit Culture. I have a background in advertising and television production. I really don't want to do this, but I think the conversation calls for me to do it. I would want to find out from Melissa why she... I know, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to do this to you. But I really want to know, why did you stick around? Because it can get really tough when there are no jobs. I really want to know, I guess also wanting to look from that perspective of how you saw things. I get the freelancers who went out, but bro, you stuck it out. Why? I'm so
She wants to hide right now. She wants to hide right now.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for that question. I think tonight didn't delve deeper into what we actually are to each other. So we're actually husband and wife.
She stuck around for me.
But I think you stick around because you have to believe at the end of the day that it is going to work out. I think tonight missed out on a point where it was actually during COVID that all of this was happening, where all the work was drawn out. And I think it dragged out for everybody. And I think you just have to pray and hope and believe that what you're doing is going to work out. I don't know if I've answered your question. No more questions.
Hi, my name is Edward. My question is related to the technical part of editing. I mean, you say that you basically edit, what you do post-production, which means that some other people will have shot or, created that body of work, and then you fine-tune it to make it cohesive. What happens in a situation where somebody felt like, you cut the wrong thing, How do you negotiate that kind of disagreement?
Yeah. Are you in the film industry?
No, I'm a journalist.
Journalist, okay.
I watch a lot of movies.
All right. So being an editor is one of the most, I don't know, I can't even explain it. So we are so plastic. Like nothing is ever solid with us, right? We listen to so many different people's opinions, and we absorb it and we take it in, and we reinterpret what it is that we've heard. So that's just the nature of being an editor. Actually, you've actually just come up with something for me. Actually, an editor is an interpretator. So like, that's right, someone is an interpretator, yeah. So we interpret the visual we interpret visual images so that audiences can understand them. That's actually what we do. And the idea of something that's not correct is part of editing. And when we collaborate with directors, or someone goes, oh man, that thing is wrong, or this is not feeling right, we listen and we reapproach it and we try to make it feel right so that whoever's watching it feels that it's right. So it's part of the job. It's an ongoing process. Editing is such a collaborative space. It's one of the things that maybe that's where my island mentality came from, which I'm now out of, is that, you get put in a room as an editor and you're by yourself and you think, oh, okay, I'm gonna come out of here with something great. For me, showing somebody your first cut, I'm not afraid of that anymore. I don't care what you think of my first cut. If you think it's terrible, but it's the beginning of the actual editing when you show somebody something. And if things are wrong, then you work at them. The only wrong thing I don't like is when people are not willing to work and expect you to get it right the first time around. That's unfair, But if they're willing to go through the process and willing to get to the end of a great edit, then it's all good. I don't know if I've answered your question. All right, thank you.
That's it. No more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much. No, thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for making time for us.
Yes,
today.
no, thank you.